Hi, guys, and welcome back to That's Suspicious. It is a podcast hosted by me, Katrina Cahill, a freelance hairstylist from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I do want to say, I don't think that this is going to be a full episode. This is just like a little blurb because I feel like there's a couple people here that don't have TikTok. Just keep in mind that this is for entertainment purposes only. Everything that I am saying is alleged and in my perspective and from my opinion. Thank you. So I was getting a facial and I was talking to my girl Lexi. Shout out Lexi Reveal Spa in Bridgeville. And she was like, you know what, dude? I don't have TikTok. I deleted it off my phone a couple months ago because we all know that being on TikTok is basically a full time job. I'm on there 8 hours a day. I deserve to be paid at this point. It's full time. And she was like, so tell me everything that's going on with Route 21. Like, I'm so curious. And so this is for those people. I also recently did a wedding, and the girl was like, my mom used to work at GNC, and she totally got fucked over when everyone moved to Route 21. And she doesn't have like a TikTok or Instagram or anything. So this is for you guys. We're going to have this on YouTube and on Spotify. So pass it along to the people without social media. And good for them for not having social media because could not be me. So the real story is, how did we end up here? And it's a short one. I am a freelance hairstylist from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So being a freelance hairstylist, that means that people contact me to do the hair for photo shoots, for campaign shoots for brands. You could hire me for your wedding. You could hire me to do your hair for a headshot, any and all hair needs. It is just a contracted 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, whatever situation. So, being a freelance hairstylist, I'm just like where the hair needs done. And I had worked at ModCloth for many years. If you guys are not sure what ModCloth is, it's a clothing brand. They also recently, I think, went under this year, which is really terrible. But yeah, it's a clothing brand that used to be based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And in the summer of 2018, they decided to move the photo studio to California. So with that happening, I was really like on the fence, like, okay, what do I want to do next? So I started reaching out to other brands that are located in Pittsburgh. So I reached out to Route 21. I'd actually tested there a while before, and I tested again. And a lot of times, some of these brands just want hair and makeup. They want one person to do it. But with the way that Route 21 was running at the time, we needed hair and makeup separately because we were doing like 2 and 3 models a day. So I tested there. Everything went really good. And I got in. So it became a situation where there was a rotation of hairstylists, there was a rotation of makeup artists, and so I was there maybe once or twice a week. And as that continued, I built a really good relationship with everyone that was there. There, in the inner workings of the way the studio worked, we had a studio manager, and we had freelance hairstylists, freelance makeup artists, freelance photographers, but there was also full-time stylists, full-time photographers, people that worked there full-time, got the PTO, got the benefits, everything, and then they would hire in the extras depending on how many people we needed. And then of course all the models were agency models, so they were hired through their agency. So there's like a liaison between the model and the person who hired them in, which would have been our studio manager. So in saying that, I built a great relationship with them. And then, of course, in 2020, no surprise, the pandemic hit, right? So I don't remember exactly when the studio closed. It probably was the same week that everything else closed. And I was home from my salon for 3 months. I don't actually remember the month that we went back to work. I'm guessing it was the same time the salon went back to work, so maybe like July. And so during that time, the freelance photographers just took photos on mannequins or did laydowns like at their houses and stuff. No one was allowed in the building. But then when we did go back to work, we had to be fully masked, and me and whoever was doing makeup and the model had to be in a separate room outside of the studio. We weren't even allowed in the studio to go do touch ups. During that time, Rue 21 was fucking thriving, guys. Like, I don't remember the exact amount of stores that existed pre COVID, but I know during the time that COVID had started, they opened up like hundreds and hundreds of stores. I remember the full time employees talking about like these great bonuses that they were getting. We were truly on top of the world. In 2018, they had hired a CEO, and at that time, I was very separated from that world. And that CEO left in 2020, and then they got Bill Brand. Now, that is the CEO that I remember them talking about the most. And this is like very important information because Bill Brand actually did not pay himself during the pandemic to make sure that his full time employees did get paid. So that's pretty fucking iconic, if you ask me. I don't actually know the reason why he was let go because the business was truly thriving. Um, and then, of course, like, everyone was in their house. Like, we weren't doing shit. Everyone was online shopping. So, Rue 21 was doing exceptional. As things got better and the pandemic got better, I also started to do like more production stuff. There was a lot of clothes coming in, there was a lot of extra work to do, and there was a lot of room for me to start steaming clothes, helping organize props. I even styled clothing a little bit, which was really fucking fun because I always have loved fashion. But there was just like so much work to go around. Now that cuts to 2023. Josh, the last CEO of Rue 21, joined the team, and the entire dynamic of this building immediately changed. It really felt like a boys' club. So, in saying that, this is the point where because I'm spending more time in the studio and I'm now working like 3 or 4 days a week, I'm now getting to know the marketing team. I'm now working hand in hand with the sample coordinator. I got really close with my boss, the studio manager. And so I was spending more time in the studio and knew the inner workings of the politics of corporate America. And that was absolutely new for me because I've only ever worked in a salon or um, doing freelance work, weddings, models, things like that, but always doing hair, right? I mean, I worked in retail when I was in hair school. And, I considered going to fashion school for a while, but, hair was always my passion. I've been doing it since I was 16 years old. And I absolutely loved this part of my job because I loved all my friends, my coworkers. Like, it was so fun. And, of course, we were at work, we were in a corporate office. Like, there's rules and regulations and stuff, but it was always just like felt like you're hanging out with your best friends. So, especially during the pandemic, I wasn't really like lacking any social feelings. Like, I felt like I was still hanging out with my friends, even though we had to have a mask on. Sometimes me and the makeup artist had to have a shield on on her face, which I'm like laughing about now. It wasn't funny at the time, but we looked fucking crazy. But I was like still getting that social feeling. I didn't feel like I was totally missing out. So um, that was cool. Once Josh came, he fired all of the top tier execs, and you could just like, it felt like everyone's like butthole was tight because all the higher ups definitely realized that they were like on the chopping block. And in saying that too, then all this other weird stuff started happening in the studio where Josh was bringing his friends in who were like professional athletes, and we had to clean the fucking studio, and like we weren't allowed to listen to music that had swearing in it, and we all had to be in our best behavior. Like, one of the models is a singer. You guys probably have seen me tag her if you are coming from TikTok to here. And she's an incredible singer, and they'd be like, don't sing too loud in the studio, which like obviously that, like, we weren't gonna get in trouble if we were singing in the studio, but it was just like everyone be on your best behavior because Josh's friends are in the building. And yeah, that vibe was like truly so bizarre. There was always this undertone of like, don't be misbehaving. And if you guys watched my last video, like, you heard me tell the story that one of my friends, two of my friends, got let go because they were talking about our other friend's dad being high while he was trying to move furniture in. And that's just so. After all the things I've learned about Josh now at this point, I'm like, ew, like, you give me the ick like 5,000 times because, like, how fucking corny are you, bro? Like, you literally call everyone losers, but you're not cool enough to smoke a fucking blunt. Chill. Even though everything around us started to get really weird, our core group of people, even though positions had changed and things like that, the energy was always really good. We did have one bizarro studio manager. We had a couple people come in and out, and but like, in corporate America, when you have a bizarre person enter the chat, they're always a ticking time bomb, right? So the morale and the culture that we lived in was always like pretty good, except for those like weird little blimps in time. But so anyway, everything at our core was really great, and we were actually creating like really cool stuff. Like, we did campaign with Playboy. We did Bratz, like the dolls. I can't even like think because we did so many cool capsules. We did like Halloween stuff. We did Pride stuff every year until Josh came into the picture. So that was quickly ripped away. But all the previous Pride campaigns we did were pretty fucking cool. Um, we did Wednesday Adams. Like, there was so many cool collabs that we did. We called them capsules along the way. And actually, as I've been talking to more people about this, I have heard that, like, literally up until the day of the bankruptcy, we had stuff in the works. Like, Beetlejuice was in the works. There was like a Steve Madden collab where it would be like Steve Madden shoes with Rue 21 logos. Like, all this shit was in the works until the end of the bankruptcy. I had someone reach out to me that was like, I was literally working on this presentation that I was going to give the next day about some of these capsules that we were working on. So, I mean, there was a ton of stuff coming into works. Oh, yeah, Wicked was one of them, which, like, you guys know that the movie's coming out because Ariana Grande. And so, like, there was a lot of really cool Wicked concepts coming up. Like, there was no way that anyone knew that a bankruptcy was around the corner. So, in saying that, I don't actually know when the product started trickling down because every single year, like at the beginning of the year, it would be like, after Christmas into January, we wouldn't really shoot that much. And then February, like, swim would start, and then we started talking about back to school. And also, too, every year, the previous years, we had closed um, for Chinese New Year. I don't know if that changed when Blue Torch became the investor, but I know that in previous years that happened because I'd been working in the sample closet and helping the sample coordinators. So at the beginning of this year, we started getting less and less product. And when I tell you guys, like, okay, so the way that the office was set up, there was a sample closet, and in the sample closet were the samples that need shot, so the clothes that need shot, and then also the clothes that we had already shot. And when I'm telling you, like, the plus, the men's and the girls was always packed to the brim. We would have to sample sell out the clothes every single week. So, um, like, there, it was always full. And again, like I just said, at the beginning of the year, we'd get a little bit less. So we wouldn't be shooting as much until swim stuff came in. So this year was like business as usual, but it was getting like bone dry out there. And that's, I think, like, February was when we started really hearing like, okay, they owe the merchants money. And again, like, this is only because I'm spending time with people that are not the hair and makeup and the models. Like, I'm talking to these corporate employees. So they're hearing this stuff from the higher up. So we knew that the merchants did, they were not getting paid. So at some point they were stopping sending in clothes samples. And it trickled down, and then it became March, right? So let me back up a second. if you are not sure how freelancers get paid, because we're not full-time employees, freelancers get paid on a net 30, 60, or 90-day cycle. So you're going to send your invoice in March 1st. You're not going to get that until April 1st, May 1st, June 1st, depending on the company, depending on their policies, right? So, yes, I'm used to not getting paid for 30, 60, 90 days, but as I had mentioned before, I was in the studio every single week. Like, unless I was traveling for my other job or whatever, I was on vacation, I was in the studio every single week, which means that, like, and of course, not every week a check was cut for the vendors. It might sometimes it'd be 2 weeks, but should be expecting a check every week, basically. And it should be for one invoice or two invoices. So, once March rolled around, it had now become weeks and weeks and weeks. The last date that I had got paid what had been February 2nd. So the last check that I received, which it had been like a couple weeks, had been February 2nd, and my last paid date, so the last time they had paid me, was for the last week in December. So I have never received a dollar for any of the work that I had done, whether it be hair and makeup or production stuff. Um, at all in 2024. So I get my last check. It's now, March. So it's been 4 weeks. And we're all like, hey, where is everything? And my poor boss was carrying the weight of the world around with him, because he was the sole person explaining to all of the freelancers like why they weren't getting paid, and he didn't have an explanation. He didn't. Like, the payroll people were just like, they told us to hold the money for the vendors, they don't want to pay them, and so we already knew the merchants weren't getting paid, and now we weren't getting paid, right? So it was becoming concerning, and no one fucking liked that. But at the same time, like, in the freelance world, you worry about getting paid and having a job. So you don't want to say no to a person who's been keeping you on board every week or every couple weeks, even if you haven't got paid, because you're like, well, fuck, I don't want to ruin this. This is income. Like, if Rue 21 drops me, then I only have these other couple brands to work for, right? So it's key to keep your relationship with your client, Rue 21. So we all continued to work. And then there was this, little story rolling around that there was a loan coming in. And so I don't know who the origin of this lie came from, but I'm assuming that it is from the people who are controlling the money, which would be Josh, the CEO, or Michelle, the CFO, these higher up people. And if you're out there in the world and you can confirm who was telling us no, like, I don't know. But I know that there was one contact that had come, one of the execs that had been around the office. She had been around the studio, and she did know some of the stuff beforehand. Like, there was a mass layoff that happened. Oh God, I can't even remember what month it happened, but it happened in 2023. Like, not far after Josh started working there, and a lot of my friends lost their jobs. And I'm glad I brought this up, because I wanted to really explain to you that, like, we were working on a skeleton crew. Like, we were truly working on a skeleton crew. Like, literally, the art director got let go. She was one of the ones that got let go for talking about being high. They never rehired her, and one of the girls on the marketing team was literally doing her job for free. They had less freelancers retouching. Like, we used to have two sample coordinators. We had one sample coordinator, and then our sample coordinator started being a full-time stylist because we no longer had a stylist. We didn't have a single full-time stylist, where when I started there, we had two or three full-time stylists, like a lead stylist and then someone below her, and then freelancers. Like, it had dwindled down to literally nothing. Even the photographers, we had two full-time photographers and we were down to one. We lost our video guy. We had a full-time video guy. He was gone. I mean, it was really like we were working on skeleton crews. And then we went from having 3 models a day to 2 models a day to 1 model a day to 1 model every other day, like, so it had been slowly dwindling down and we didn't realize it. Um, And then I sent an email to the exec that I knew, and I was like, hey, my guy, it's been 8 weeks since I've been paid. I have paid my mortgage, my car payment, my health insurance 2 times now without a paycheck. And she gave me a corporate answer. She said she didn't know what was going on. I don't know in my heart, I'll never know. Because what are we supposed to know? Like there's no way to actually know what she knows. I don't know if they had to sign NDAs. I don't know, but I'll never find out the truth if she actually knew what was going on. But she definitely brushed me off and we all moved on with our lives. So at this exact time, one of the models had not been paid. Same thing. We're in March now, and he had not been paid for the entire year. And honestly, I think some of the models hadn't been paid since October. His agent had got wise to it, and he was honestly smarter than everyone. And he was like, "Hey guys, you're gonna have a fucking lawsuit on your hands if you don't pay this modeling agency." And it's kind of shitty because again, like my boss was the face of all this. So his agent, who had a good relationship with him, was getting pissed at him, and he stopped even texting him back because his client was owed money. So that sucks. That they were burning bridges with these modeling agencies. But, I guess at the end of the day, they knew what was coming. So did they care? No. So they gave them one more week, and we were all like, okay, so at this point, if they're going to pay this modeling agency, we're also all going to get checks this week, right? And no, they literally sent a cease and desist. They were no longer allowed to use photos of this model. They had to Photoshop them out of things. And it didn't fucking matter. They didn't even care. They just let this lawsuit begin to happen. And as I dug more into this story, I realized that there's multiple sexual harassment lawsuits also pending and a discrimination lawsuit. So they had no intention of ever taking care of any of this, in my opinion, from my perspective. But yeah, so we're closing in here, guys. Like, I had worked for this company for 6 years. I had worked under two CEOs, multiple studio managers, multiple art directors, creative directors, and things started to feel really weird inside of the studio. The morale started going down. We were all just like, all the full time employees were like, LOL, should I start looking for a job? Little did we know that, like, yes, they should have started looking a long time ago. So, moving on to the week that the bankruptcy happened, the week before, another local modeling agency, one that was local to Pittsburgh, their models were owed $20,000, $15,000, $30,000. None of them had been paid since October. They now, a few weeks later, were like, hey, my guy, you no longer can use these models. And at this point, because of the former CEO, he only let us use these specific 4 models. So that was it. We were pretty much done. So the final week in the studio, the week before, I should say, no one knew that that was going to be the last week that we worked together. It truly felt like summer vacation. We have all reminisced and said, like, wow, like that time was so great. But we didn't know that this was coming. So, Jamie, no, you're lying. Okay, let's take a break. Guys, you're never gonna fucking believe this. I was literally on TikTok live and I had to pop off because the fucking CFO was joined my TikTok. Girl, in my opinion, from my perspective, if you're gonna join my live, maybe go on a private account. Jesus. Okay. Anyway, back to the story. Hey guys, welcome back. The CFO of Route 21 was on my TikTok. So anyway, I had to block her. Hey, it's me from the future. I actually misspoke. It was not the CFO, even though I said it several times. I was very frazzled. It was actually the head of stores that was on my TikTok live. And I'm all frazzled now. What a funny way to end this. So the stuff stopped coming in, and I sent an email out. I was like, hey, what's up? Like, you guys owe me this money. And they they just kept telling us that the money was trickling in. They were telling my boss that this man was losing sleep and losing weight over it. He literally would be like, I'm so depressed. I don't know what to do. I'm so